on the preparation for work on the post-pandemic. So I have a couple of announcements to make today. We're going to have interpretation into English. Those of you who want to hear, just hit the button on the bar interpretation, select the language. We're going to have one panelist who will speak English, so you may need it. For those of you who want to ask questions, please write them down on the Q&A, which is available on your screen, and we will try to respond to your questions during the session. And then we're recording the session, and it will be available on our webpage. Just to begin with this session, there is consensus that the work and the different skills were changing quite significantly before the pandemic, and an event of such a nature with all the different effects I think that it may have exacerbated those changes that were taking place. So this is yes. So this leads to think what will be the implications in terms of the work and the education. So this is why we're meeting today. We know that this is not a simple topic to address, but we have such an important panel with different perspectives and a lot of experience so that you can understand this such an important topic. Where we'll hear Nicole Amaral. She's the transformation leader for Latin America and in the Caribbean in Coursera. She will be summarizing today the findings of a recent report that they have published on the skills and the global market. So then after Nicole, we will have a panel so that we can have a conversation about the different challenges. I will introduce you. So I want to introduce all the different panelists once Nicole finishes her presentation. Without any further ado, Nicole, the floor is yours. Please let us know your findings. Thank you. And if you give me just a second, I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know if you can see it. Yes. Perfect. Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. As Ariel mentioned, my name is Nicole Amaral. I'm the leader of Skills Transformation for Government for Latin America and the Caribbean. Just a quick, just for you to know what Crusader is. We are a global learning ecosystem, which includes trainees and students, educators, and institutional partners. At present, Coursera has more than 80 million students taking courses by more than 150 university partners, and who represent who are at the front board. We support companies in the different universities to transform the skills of the different employees, citizens, and students. So as Ariel mentioned, I would like to take some time to acknowledge the change that we have experienced this year and a half. We lost a lot of jobs, and a lot of industries are affected by the impact of the pandemic. And according to the ILO, more than 80% of the labor force were affected, and they are still affected by total or complete closures. And as Ariel mentioned, the future work was a relevant aspect, but COVID accelerated the pace and created a dual disruption. And this disruption may displace 85 jobs from this moment until 2029 and 2025. 84% of the companies will expedite their digitization of their own works. And among the companies, among the people who are within their functions, 40% will need to go back and retrain. However, the effects of these disruptions were not suffered in an equitable manner by region or by industry or by demographic or socioeconomic group. And the most vulnerable populations were highly affected with the different obstacles to recovery. We we've seen differences in the different regions, major losses in Latin America and in the south of Europe and in the south of Asia. And at a demographic level, only in 2020, 5% of the total jobs were occupied by women were lost, and young recently graduated, they were also affected when they tried to find the first job. So finally, the unequal access to internet, to connectivity has also become an unequal access to school, to learning, and to the development of skills, and that's when, especially when at this time when we need more knowledge in Latin America, women and young people have been strongly affected by the loss of jobs due to COVID. And CEPAL has indicated that women in the region have lost a decade of progress in terms of labor participation. Early in 2021, the youth was 24%, and nearly 3 million young persons were excluded from the labor force, and the lack of opportunities as well for the youth. The loss of school time has also affected. It's limiting their possibility to gain access to a decent job. And the opportunities, the labor opportunities that we have, they also depend on the capacity of the region to adapt and to recover their pre-pandemic growth. I mean, the human capital can have an effect on the future generation of jobs at different levels. For example, the International Data Corporation has indicated that from 2022 and 2023, 50% of the investments and the efforts for transformation, the digital transformation of the different companies may fail due to the lack of human talent with the right skill sets to implement these initiatives and to benefit from those initiatives. And the public sector, a recent survey by the IDB indicated that 64% of public managers declared that their technology projects were affected due to the lack of skills among personnel. So given the scale of the different collective challenges after the pandemic, we believe that the skills will have an essential role to play. And although there is no unique solution for the labor force and for the economic development, highly qualified countries will produce a positive result. So as a matter of fact, what we found is that the level of proficiency of skill sets among trainees in Coursera is highly correlated to greater participation in the labor force, greater economic production, and a per capita increase, and a reduction in the concentration of wealth. So one of the tools that we have developed in order to support the different countries, individuals, is the Global Skills Report. And we created this report benefited, benefiting from the millions of students who are registered in this in order to provide more actionable information for the different public and private entities that making decisions in terms of education. So, what have we learned from this information from the millions of apprentices? How many are they in Latin America? We have more than 14 million students in Coursera, which is quite similar to Europe, and the average age is 31, a- uh, 31 years of age, and they use cell phones. Almost half of them are women, and the percentage of women taking courses in Coursera in Latin America and the Caribbean is higher compared to other regions, except for North America. But it is also important to mention that our data represent the world through the lens of Coursera, and this is just a fraction of people in the region. And these people get to Coursera through different channels, through public programs, through the different companies, universities, or as individuals. So we try to understand through our analysis what is that those who are coming to Coursera, what are they learning, what are the lessons that we can learn, and to get to improve the existing programs. And in and we're focusing on measuring the skills in terms of business, technology, and data science, which are mapped in our taxonomy. And these three domains contain most of the critical skills for digital transformation, and they allow employees to keep this at the same pace. So what we did in order to compare the level of proficiency of skills at a country level, we established the we established the skills of each one of the persons considering the level of difficulty, and then this information is added at a country level, and they are organized by percentage range. So what we found when we compared in the different categories in Coursera in the different regions, the first finding is that apprentices or students in the highest in the two quintiles, they said that they have different skills. They're not only more advanced, not only are they more advanced, but they also have more disruptive skills, machine learning, financial technology, critical thinking. But at a general level, apprentices in the 17 of the 23 countries in our sample, they are in the lowest quintile of general proficiency, and the apprentices in these 17 countries, they focus on soft skills like creativity, adaptability, and communication, and the business at basic level. So this implies an interesting difference in terms of the different populars among the different apprentices in countries that were considered quite competitive, and the different sponsoring the institution. And if we look at the performance by competence in the region, the apprentices in Latin America are in the lowest level in advanced and in business and technologies, but they do show strength, information on data science. And now, in terms of they have more opportunity in terms of the level of proficiency reached by apprentices in other regions. But within this category, the interesting is that the accounting skills are an area of strength for countries in Latin America and the Caribbean in 19 of, and they are 19 of the 23 are at a higher level. However, we need to take into account that the automation will also account for the different type of works of accountants. Therefore, the different companies need to add skills such as data analysis and the automation among the different processes. In terms of technology, apprentices in the region show the high proficiency in basic programming of computers, but they lack skills of software engineering, and these requires a high level of sophistication and in order to design complex solutions. But most of the countries in Latin America have a better global performance in mobile development, which explains why this is a fast growing market. And then finally, in the data science category, more than half of the countries in the region in Coursera have high proficiency in some of the skills related to data analytics, data visualization, and data management. But mathematics is an area of concern because the performance is really low compared to other regions. And some food for thought for both individuals and institutions who are managing, whether public or private, it's to explore how these potential deficiencies can be remedied or leveraged. Another important finding that we found in the last year is that there was a significant increase in STEM courses on the part of those who are reported to be unemployed and by women as well. And this indicates that these groups, which were strongly affected by the pandemic, they also recognize the importance of these fields for their employability and have been promoted by different institutions that sponsored their education in Coursera. However, an area of concern is that despite that increase in the registry fees in STEM, we also found a gap in the level of proficiency that women are achieving, particularly in some of the key competencies compared to other apprentices. We have also seen other gaps in finance, strategy, and the business category, and others like machine learning and data management and mathematics. Those are skills that are needed for transformation. And these gaps here are at a global level, but we are also seeing a serious situation with apprentices and the platform in the Latin America and the Caribbean, where some initial analyses have seen gaps of 60% in computer science, 64% in 42% in finance in countries like Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia. So I think that this deserves investigation in order to understand the nature of these gaps, in order to sort them out, to help women to get prepared to become more professional. So just to conclude, in terms of the first part of this presentation, the economy, the pandemic has created a complex panorama that may render a lot of people unprepared. So the investment in this process may promote competitiveness, innovation, and equity. And we think that this is the right time to build education systems and training systems which are more inclusive, modern, and scalable, and to find alternatives that will provide new paths so that more people can access to these type of opportunities. So what's next, and what do we need to do collectively in this regard? So before passing the floor to Ariel so that they can respond to this, we want to mention what are we doing in terms of innovation at Coursera to help people, to those who want to change their job, using the data and the benchmark that I just explained in a world with studies. We also analyze the average time it takes an apprentice in Coursera to reach the adequate skills for the digital emerging roles which were identified by the World Forum. And this includes the initial marketing, digital marketing, data analysis, for example. And what we have noticed is that the regular apprentice can develop a basic set of skills for certain of these roles in just from 35 to 70 hours. And these are good news for those of you who are trying, who want to train for a digital role, from parents working with different schedules, including those persons who are unemployed or who are looking for a more focused approach. And a common approach in order to obtain the skill sets for a digital role are through routes such as the certificates that we have in Coursera, and they are designed for students who are rookies, no technology experience, and includes those who are more experienced who want to do upscaling to develop a more advanced skills. And then finally, last year, we also worked with public entities in more than 110 countries as part of the effort to recover our labor force in response to COVID and the impact of COVID, where we also produced, where we have two important lessons at the implementation level. The first thing is that we need to invest in the access to preparation for online learning, including um, digital and digital literacy of population, so that so that people can gain access to these type of opportunities. And this is extremely important in regions where according to the ITU studies, less than 40% of the population has no basic knowledge of information technology. And then secondly, we need to face this fundamental include as to the upscaling, and this requires collaboration among public and private entities, and the willingness or the openness to innovation, and having the possibility to explore. So, if you want to know further information about the analysis that we conducted and about the learning routes for initial work, please download the report. And this is my contact should you have any questions. Thank you very much, Nicole, for such an outstanding presentation. I can see that there are some questions already in the chat and in the Q&A, and and I'm sure that more questions will come up. I want we have a very interesting panel today. It is not too common to have such a group of people with such a vast experience and different perspectives. So first of all, we have Ricardo Ruiz from Viñas. He and please turn on your camera so we can see you all. Ricardo is the national director of the National Service of Sense in Chile. We also have Marta Barroso Gonzalez. She is the director of People and Culture in Manpower Group, Latin America, and she's with us from Mexico. We're really glad that you're doing great, and that your relatives are okay. Christy Brown, she works in Chevron, and she's the sponsor of the management of petrotechnology. She's going to talk about the experience of Chevron in this area. Carlos Maria Estrada, he's the general director of the National Service of SENA in Colombia. And Joana Barbañez, she is the general director of digital in Generalitat in Catalonia. So we have representation from the different state agencies responsible for training, and the private sector, We have a consultant, an international consultant. So to begin and inspired on the conference by Nicole, I would like to ask the different panelists some questions from your perspective in the world where you in the area where you work. What how do you see how are the skill sets changing in terms of the labor market during the pandemic and then after the pandemic? Uh, from the south, Ricardo in Chile, can you hear me? There's a little bit of echo, but okay. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Hello, everyone. Those of you who are hearing me and those who are part of this panel, as you have indicated, the pandemic has affected significantly not only our health but our job uh, through the different skills and processes and technologies that are taking place. So what we've seen in Chile, which has happened everywhere, is that technology has been a great ally and in order to maintain your job. So imagine this crisis back in the 70s or in the 80s where we had to be very distant. The online trade would have been nil. The communication that we currently have through the different tools, IT tools, it would have never taken place. So what I'm saying with this is that technology is a major ally of work. Since there are technologies, you need to use technologies accordingly. You need to be at the forefront of the different processes that are taking place in order to operate and to keep on working and to keep on communicating. And in this regard, there's we've seen this shift towards more digital trades. Companies are demanding more and more people to have digital skills. For example, the trade sector is not it is not you don't go to a shop anymore. You see a lot of people doing a lot of online purchases. So the trading sector learned, and it was really hard, the importance of online trade. So what are they doing? They're demanding more technology, new skill sets associated with digitization. What do we need to do in the public? What do we do as serves as part of the employment service? We need to provide training courses for these digital competences, and we are changing towards online trade, digital marketing, towards the use of social networks in order to trade, to sell, to interact with your clients. So this is something that came over. This was really hard. The pandemic was really hard, and we see that when the pandemic is over, people will go back to their offices, but a huge percentage will remain online. So therefore, based on the training, based on the education, people will change, and this is changing to a better digitization. So this is what the productive sector is demanding in Chile. This will remain in Chile. And remember, the training it has to be very important. If we're not training people after what the productive sector is demanding, then we will have problems. So we are evolving. This is how we are evolving in Chile. We will maintain this scheme operating, which has in order to quantify and to size those traits that are being demanded at a regional and a sectoral level. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you, Ricardo. We may hear Carlos from Colombia. What's the demand in Colombia? Good morning, Ariel. I am very pleased to hear Nicolas and to the other panelists. I want to express my gratitude, Ariel, for the invitation to such an important event of analysis of the different perspectives of the new labor dynamics that we've seen. Today, we are in a very complex scenario, which is also full of opportunities for growth. 2 years ago, for sure, n- nobody would have imagined something like what we're experiencing, the coronavirus and the damage it's caused and the uncertainty on the impact and the consequences. And this has led us to redefine our priorities and to establish new objectives in many of our scenarios. So, therefore, today more than ever, we are witnessing the importance of technology in the development of our day-to-day activities. And in that context, all the different members of the different organizations, whether public or private, in Colombia or globally, we need to innovate and we need to be agile, which is something that the different the which is what the different entrepreneurs are demanding. And apart from this, we need to be aware that in order to overcome this situation and to face the situation, we have to be permanently, that we need lifelong learning. So we at Sena, we normally tell our students that what we're teaching them today, 4 or 5 years time, will be completely obsolete. So this will be the first generation who need to study from cradle to grave to face the different challenges of the fourth revolution, which is generating an accelerated change in all the different knowledges and the different periods of human beings. Now, in terms of the new roles that we're looking into the future, although each country has its own specific details, the trends in terms of the future works are quite similar based on the World Forum. The first place of classification are held by data analysts and followed by IA and machine learning. Apart from the different professions in business development or those who are specialized in risk management, as well as those who are developing software, the labor observatory located in Switzerland concluded that in the following years, from 80 to 85 jobs will disappear in this repetitive work. But it also sustains that there will be 130 new labor opportunities will come up, mostly related to the different areas that represent the fourth revolution, like IA, big data, drone management, virtual reality, Internet of Things, blockchain, machine learning, nanotechnology, cybersecurity, and the financial system. Due to the pandemic, last year we 300 offices were closed, 600 offices, bank offices closed. So this means that by the end of this decade, for sure, our banks will be in these devices. So this is why the different presidents of the different financial group they want to have more people. They want to have more human talent because crimes will be more cyber. So we need to train these people so that they can protect their data from of not only financial entities, but something that I see that is demanding a lot, and which will be one of the areas of the fourth industrial revolution is the 3D printing. It's amazing what we have seen with the 3D printing. The progress will perhaps leave aside some of the works and but there will be new opportunities such as 3D robotics, genetic engineering. It's amazing what's coming. So we're gonna have to face some decisions. which have to do with ethical aspects. Because this is awesome, but this is another discussion that at some point in time that the different institutions will address, and the different multilateral agencies will need to face this type of situations. Ariel, there are other also people taking care. In the case of Sena, we're training 70% of the nurses who are required by the health sector in our country every day. The ETS or the different institutions where they demand more talent, green jobs with emphasis on non-conventional renewable energies. So we need to. So this is the commitment that we have. We need to train 30,000 people in the following 2 years in the different in wind farms, and that's the direction that we're heading. The electromobility, electrical vehicles in our capital city in Bogota. We already started the construction of the metro in Bogota, in our city. It will be electrical, so that's where we need to train a lot of technicians so that they can participate in the construction process. Um, but also they need to be able to operate and to maintain that important means that will allow for a faster transportation for the residents of Bogota. I want to finish my intervention with this. According to the figures of the software industry, the Ministry of Telecommunications, and they are analyzing the market trends in our country, and they have indicated that before COVID, we had a deficit of nearly 70,000 professionals in technology, information technology, and it's been calculated that the deficit can be roughly 3 million. Then after the pandemic, now that we're post pandemic, the men, the executives of the different companies in the different sectors, they have concluded that the digital transformation is not fashion. This is the need to make sure that we can guarantee sustainability and the growth of the different businesses. So in this regard, in Colombia, there 400,000 people are will be trained in all the different areas related to 4.0 industries, with emphasis on software development and the different in Java, JavaScript, Python, .NET, HTML, C++, some among other technologies. In our country, we have a huge gap, and this is why we're conclusively working to train these young people because they will find a job immediately. So that's one of the most important needs people. So this is a huge opportunity for them, and as Nicole indicated, we need to do reskilling and upskilling to train these young people so that they can get a nice job at the new and the at a national and international level. Thank you so much. Joanna, can you please share your perspective from Catalonia to see how different or how similar compared to Chile and Colombia? Hello, good afternoon. We're all over the world, so it's 5:40. So I'm about to close my day, but I think that the problems are similar, and basically, you have indicated Ricardo and Carlos have shared some ideas that I fully share. And I will be short because I would like to have a dialogue with you, but I would highlight what has already been said. The pandemic has changed our lives, our day-to-day activities at all the different levels, how we communicate, how we work, how we study. So I think the paradigm has changed by 100%. But in my opinion, there may be hazards or dangers. But the positive thing is that the acceleration. I mean, we're in Catalonia and in Europe. We have we have moved. like 10 years in terms of what we had to experience. So I think this teleworking, the remote work, and the online education, this is something that we were planning for the following 10 years. So what we did is to accelerate this transformation. We did it out of need. You know we as humans, we normally work under pressure, and when we have a test, since we have it every day, so we had to work on this. And I think that that this has helped us accelerate, and also we've seen this digital gap. There was a gap, but this is not something that was openly discussed. What the pandemic has done is that this has the gap has become quite large, and we're digitized. Those who can work digitally, we have done an upgrade, but those who were not involved, I mean, they were left behind, and we need to make sure that they can get up to date. So we have the digital training, but for these groups who are, we need to teach them. We need there are groups who need to learn how to use an email, and we have. And we need to do an upskilling or a reskilling so that they can become part. So I think that training is really important, but there's a huge range where we can operate. I will let you know later on in a second phase what we're doing. And I think that this has forced us to work very differently, to cooperate, to work with the public and the private sector hand in hand. Because if we don't do it together, we will not succeed. And I also, and as indicated by Nicole, that one thing is the hard skills, or the education that we can do in big data. In I this is And there are platforms like Coursera or other universities that are providing this type of education. But I think that we need to take into account the soft skills. Uh, I mean, working at home, that requires certain skills, and this is something that you need. I don't know if you do it in Coursera, but you need to work. You need there's responsibilities, so we need to work these soft skills which are inherent in the day to day. And then to finish, I agree with what Carlos mentioned, that when he spoke about the education from the moment that the long life learning is going to be really important. So when you got tired, when you worked for a company and then you lived at the same place, that's not a reality. Young people today, if they get married, I don't know, but we move all over the place, and we work in different places. So this is and as a government, if I have more time, I will let you know which are the activities, but just to give you an overview. Thank you very much. And when you were talking about the social emotional skills, there will be a question about this later on. I would like to hear Christy. What will be your perspective from the from a large company operating in different places? How do you see the change and the demand for skills, Christy?
Yeah, thank you, Earl, for having me on the panel. And Nicole, that was a great presentation and great to be part of this panel. When we look at our sector, our energy industry, right, it's a very global industry across many regions that we already discussed today. And I think, we're seeing very similar needs where we're seeing really strong pull for the STEM fields, the core engineering, technical, mathematics, and even more so when we couple pandemic, digitization, and energy transition all together. It creates a huge demand for really technically strong educations, backgrounds, and ability to work in a global market with those skills as well. I would say, what's changing the most is what Joanna mentioned a bit is in terms of needing these increased technical skills, we also need the increased collaboration skills that come with our new environment of remote work, hybrid work. The office environment is forever changed, and we need people who have the skills to collaborate across platforms like we're doing right now. And we see that, that's something we're having to build within our workforce, all the way from our, entry level positions up to high level leadership. Is how do you really collaborate and connect on the human side in order to develop innovative solutions when you're not face to face, when you can't fully collaborate. I think it's making our digital or our global workforce innovate in a way we haven't before, because we can work together in a new space. The acceleration of digital has driven that, but with it comes the complication of really truly being able to leverage the diversity of everyone in a conversation when you're in a digital environment. And I would add additionally that we're also going through an internal development around how we do learning and talent internal to our company. Previously we had a lot of internal skill development hosted by our subject matter experts in whatever technology, but the world in front of us with energy transitions, with digitization, and the really need for analytical and data science skills, we don't have all that internally at the same rate anymore. And so we have to leverage external platforms. I know Nicole mentioned, obviously Coursera. There's a number of learning kind of democratization platforms where they aggregate content from across many different learning and talent spaces and bring it internal to the companies and really let people build their learning paths in a way where we previously maybe were dictated them more prescriptively. Now we're in a world where people build those learning paths and really kind of build the skill set and really take true ownership of it. So, I think I support a lot of the comments that were made previously. Carlos had a great list of all the new skills from digital and AI, cybersecurity. All of those things are required, and as a private sector, we're needing them, more than ever. And we're looking for skills, and we can see that different regions of the world are at different levels and delivering those skills from a hiring perspective. And so, we also have to work with our university partners and learning platform partners to be able to upskill and really kind of actually collaborate on those skills that we need for the future. Thanks, Ariel.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Y vamos a volver sobre este punto de la colaboración.
Thank you. And we will go back to the collaboration, because I think this is very interesting. Marta, can you please also tell us, what do you think? I think that you're working throughout the region when you see the different changes in demand. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you to my colleagues in the panel and to the audience hearing us. I would like to start with a reflection and to recognize that we are vulnerable. And I think that the pandemic has really shown that vulnerability, both industries and as individuals. And therefore, we cannot control, we do not have the answer to everything, and that we need to keep on learning. And something that we have done in terms of reflection, we need to unlearn certain things, especially now with the pandemic, with the different behaviors, and to unlearn and learn those skill sets, and to recognize how we are doing and what is it that we need to do differently. My friends have spoken about the technical part, and Joanna was mentioning about the skill sets, and I normally call it the behavioral part. If we do not do this match between the technical skills with the behavioral, for example, how responsible I am with my behaviors. which is the accountability. How resilient I am, how can I adapt to the new conditions, how are my work models changing, and what do we need from everyone, from students, from people. People need to have this skill set. So my leadership has changed in this regard because at the end of the day, one of the most important thing of unlearning is leadership. So I cannot keep managing leadership as I did before
digital.
to do the digital part and how well prepared I am. And I think that this is one of the stuff that can have really come up. So how well prepared I am to understand health and to manage my own emotional health, that of my colleagues. If I'm a leader in the work group, how adapted I am to manage grievances, which is part of our day-to-day activities because the pandemic has killed a lot of people and this has affected the different work. So this is a reflection to determine if those skills and competencies that have to go hand in hand. Somebody already mentioned that this is not something that you learn at the university or through courses. This has to do with self-management and how is it that we can develop these skills and competences which are more focused on behavioral changes. And and thank you.
Pinta un panorama.
I think that this is giving us a very interesting standpoint, which is quite demanding as well in terms of the range and the diversity of the different skills, which may be very technical to the behavioral skills.
Empecemos a hablar también sobre cómo está.
I would like us to talk how are these changes affecting the different education programs, or what are the initiatives that are being adopted from the state and from the private sector? Perhaps with Ricardo. In Chile, how have you adapted the different programs and policies to respond to such important changes? Okay, thank you. We have done this in multiple ways. What Sensei is doing at this time are just a couple of things. We are measuring the effectiveness of the different training programs. What is it that we need to do? We need to take surveys. We need to do follow-up. We need to ask people if they have found a job after being trained. We need to measure the effectiveness of the training in terms of employment, because that's what we're doing. That's one thing. So we basically do review statistics. What is happening with the people who just graduated? What is the salary that they're getting? And among the different employability, those who are not employed, what do we need to do, or we need to address? We need to make decisions. So that's one aspect. But there's another aspect which has to do with what is the training of the future? What do we need in the business environment and the industry in order to align the different training needs? And for that purpose, we need to have a permanent conversation with the productive sectors, because this is the only way we can get to know the future of the employment. And we need to make sure that this is aligned with the training needs. Because at the end of the day, we're using public resources to be able to fund this type to provide scholarship for training to vulnerable people. But that training has to adhere to the productive sector. So basically, a couple of things. We measure, and then we measure the effectiveness of the program in terms of employment, and then to have conversations through standardized processes with the different industries in the country in order to look at the future demand. So that's basically what
Muy
we
bien, muy bien. Y de vuelta al tema de la cooperación
Okay, going back to
entre
the
oferta y demanda
cooperation, between
básico, por
supply and
supuesto.
demand. I think that this is quite important.
Carlos,
Carlos,
ustedes desde el CENSE, ¿cómo han
in
ido respondiendo
sense,
y en qué tiempo el cumplimiento?
how are you planning to respond in this? Okay, in Sena, in order to respond to the different requirements of the different sectors, within the fourth industrial revolution and the advances in science and technology, we have implemented the modular and flexible. So this is an invitation to reflection. We see how we see that the entrepreneurs are hiring people without the graduation or in order for you to have a job. You were requested a technological title, a master's degree or PhD. And today I'm surprised because entrepreneurs are reflecting and they are engaging people who with the knowledge, regardless if they have a title or not. So in order to respond to this type of education, and since the youth, it is always positive to study. I mean, but the youth they are noticing that they do not need to go to a university for 5 years to gain some knowledge that will allow them to gain a job, because because the universities are doing today. The youth they finding online some vehicle means that will allow them to gain some skills and they are becoming part of the labor market. So this is why at Sena we have implemented modular and flexible program. We have modernized our curriculum. Colombia Colombia bought a lot of electrical vehicles last year, and the studies have indicated that by the end of this decade, 95% of the vehicles globally will will be electrically operated. So we're modernizing our education. We're moving from education and mechanics of to electrical motors, and we're doing this change quite quick, fast, because this is going to be a trend that will become more and more common globally. So we're modernizing our training as we're training our instructors, and 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 we're changing the to a virtual scheme. So we are promoting these processes in terms related to programming, the design of software uh, for people in different areas of knowledge. And we have established agreements with the different technological leaders, as we have seen in the different public and private universities in Colombia. So we are establishing alliances with the different technology platforms of online, from Microsoft, um, uh, from Oracle, SAP, Level, and with the different organizations that are providing us support with the update of the different training rooms, such as Samsung, Huawei, Siemens, uh, uh, and the giant of Renault and Ecopetrol and other leading um, national companies. So these alliances are allowing us to move on with this type of training, and we're working into different strategies. One in digital skills. For the programming source code to certify um, uh, citizens. And Colombia is part of the OECD, and to become the citizens of the 21st century, to educate 21 million Colombians by the first semester of 2023 on skills related to the management of ITC, businesses, teleworking, and productive innovation. So the transformation is a huge challenge. So we need to sort this out together. Today, the different channels and where we are published. They are mediated by digital and technological conditions. 2 years ago, uh, 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 Sena has 43,000 employees, and and only of those 43,000, 30,000 are teachers, and 3,000 of them were trained for virtual training. So the other 27,000 had to be trained and to work online in the different platforms. So we had to expedite the training process with our teachers. So uh, this has allowed people to manage this type of knowledge. Um, so, in other words, we need to develop all the different activities simultaneously, and they don't have to meet physically to use the different platforms. So this is why we have established the technology mediation, which needs to allow a hybrid approach so that we can articulate the different education reasons. So I am reluctant to believe that the future education is 100% virtual, at least in the case of Sena. We have done a lot of investments in simulators and yellow of the different machine for welders, simulators for the health area. I believe that, but I think that the face-to-face education is also important. That the virtuality is there to stay, but I would say that this is allowing us to train ourselves in the different theoretical aspects. But I think that this is necessary. How can I train respect, or how can I teach respect, teamwork, or critical thinking if I don't have a conversation with our students? So I think that education is a social behavior that demands people to be face to face. Thank you very much. Joanna, with the same question. How are you responding? We're doing a lot of work and things related to talent and digital gap. Talent, because as you will know, as in Europe, there is a lack of there's lack of digital talent, and during the pandemic, we had a lot of job opportunities. So although we in Catalonia, in Spain, in Europe, there were jobs generated that are not covered today. So this is why this is a growing sector, and there is a lack of talent. So we're trying to retain, and those are the actions that we're developing. So in this regard, for example, we're working together with the private sector and the economic sector. And there is a Barcelona Digital Talent, which works with different collective groups together with Crusader. In this case, we're providing professional guidance. We have a project for rural co-working in Catalonia. We have a problem that, and I'm sure this happens in other places. People are leaving the cities, are and they're go and the small. So this is why the pandemic is an opportunity to bring these territories to life. Uh, so through technology and through this project that we have with the Barcelona Digital Talent, we're retaining talent by helping them stay in their territory, providing access to technology and knowledge. At the level of gap, yes, we have developed a strategic plan. First, to provide access to fiber optic. Uh, Today, the fiber is a road that's gaining access to internet. Where we're wiring the whole territory. We are, if Catalonia is not a country, but at the region, we're in a very privileged place because we have done a lot of investments to get to those remote spaces. So we're wiring. We have a public fiber, and and but when you get to the largest cities, from that point, we work with the local providers. So fiber the access to connectivity and access to equipment. We're going to provide bonuses for those companies, for those families who cannot gain access to the technological devices, so that they can do their work. So together with the social division, we are going to do a public summit to see how we can manage. But there's an important budget for the purchase of equipment, and then the competence skill. We may have computers, but if we don't know how to operate it, then this is important. So in this regard, in the pandemic, we reached an agreement with Coursera in 2020. We're offering a catalog of education online with more than 4,000 courses online for free. So these are projects that have worked quite well. And then our plan which has to do with the gender gap. The pandemic has evidence that despite that there was a gender gap, it became worse. And in addition to the fact that technology and we're not included as women, so this situation is leading us to work so that we can attract women to technology, and if they and by the time they grow up, they want to work. So this is why we have developed the Mujer TIC, or the Woman TIC plan, where we have different access. First, we need to make technologies more attractive or more appealing for women. They go to the different schools so that the little girls can know that you can be a mother, and that you can and so that they can see that these persons are important. And we also work with feasibility. We also have the Women TIC award, where we have different categories. And in 8 years, we have contracted with a lot of people. We can see what's the type of group of people. So in this regard, we're connecting with the University of Trujillo in Peru, and there are some prizes, and they copied the project, and we're cooperating with them. So we're developing this project in Peru, and we also have in Mujer TIC, or Woman TIC. We're providing training. And something that we're doing at this time is how can we make sure that women can have executive positions in the different companies, and they are on intermediate positions, and which have to do with communication, human resources. So this is why we're working with the different companies so that they can hold these technology positions. And right now, we are placing our bets on women entrepreneurship. When there's a startup, when we have a more female approach, the entity is different, and they can coexist. There's a lot of leadership. We're promoting a lot of leadership. So in this regard, we have a grant for 1 million euros. But this is a good budget, and the basis is that they have to be part of technology companies, and 51% of those companies should be owned by women. So we've seen that these women have had problems related to funding. So when they want to find some funding, it's harder. It is true. So we are providing this type of economic support, and we're also developing in this regard in the market, in the TIC woman. We're developing a sectoral woman, especially focused on the cyber technology and aerospace, because this is a growing sector. And and we also have a digital application that is called we have trained 100,000 people, and this year we are doing a certification with Digicom Europea, which is a valid institution for any place in Europe. We're conducting, and we are producing this. We've seen when you go back to your regular life, not being digitally trained, that's a huge problem. So that's interesting. Thank you, Ariel. That was interesting. I think there are many questions for all the different panels. So, those of you who are not speaking, if you want to respond to these questions, Chris, what do you think? What do you think about the quality and the relevance of the different changes that are taking place in the educational institutions? Are those changes adapting to your needs that you have as part of Chevron, or do you think that there are weaknesses that should be changed?
Well, thank you for the question, Ariel. I think it's actually two parts. So when you think about the technology education, when you think about the core STEM type degrees that are coming out of universities and various institutions, we are seeing a transition and acceleration in terms of energy transition. So sustainability type degrees, we're seeing new energy technologies, and you're seeing that at both the graduate and the undergraduate level that, we hadn't seen just a few years ago. We're also seeing increases in institutions having data science and data analytics degrees also at various levels in terms of higher level education. So again, some bachelor's, master's, and again, that is a transition that has happened in just the last few years. And I think in that space, it's particularly hard because we've talked about the digitalization a lot. And with all that data, restaurants now have a plethora of data because of their online applications. And so we're competing for talent in a way that we've never competed, for some of those data science and digital and analysis skills. And so that is a new forefront, but you also see, as been described, a lot of institutions, educational resources stepping up to provide more training or direct degrees in that space. When I think about, your question around, what maybe gaps that we're seeing, in strategy, and I kind of, as people were talking a little bit, it made me think about, we've made this transition during the pandemic in some areas where there is internet availability to online education fully, right? So whether that was, major universities moving completely to online, and now as various are under more control of their COVID waves and health situations, you see the moving back to the classroom. And it's interesting because as a work environment, we fully expect to stay at some level of hybrid work going forward. So although our education system is in some more traditional areas is moving back to full-time face-to-face, I wouldn't say that the work environment is. So we don't want to lose what we've learned over this pandemic period in terms of this mixed media, multi-platform training and education method to deliver workers, professionals that can be successful in very hybrid type environments, very global type environments, and frankly, allow for additional diversity, supporting, dual careers, supporting women, as just was discussed in a lot of detail. And so I would hope that we still have a way in all of our educational systems to take the lessons that we've learned through the pandemic around digital learning and digital collaboration and continue to leverage them forward and don't lose those as various entities return face to face.
Muchas gracias. Y ahora, Marta,
Marta,
me pregunto, ¿qué es lo que
what
ustedes trabajan con muchas
you
empresas?
work with a lot of companies? What would you suggest? And this is such a changing world, not only for the demand of skills, but also on the supply side. What do you suggest as a strategy to respond to this? Well, I think that this is joint work. We normally do surveys which reflect the level of talent scarcity or the shortage. And 7 out of 10 employers have problems covering their vacancies. So what are we doing at this time? We are working hand in hand with the academia, with the different companies, so that we can engage. And somebody just mentioned that to determine how important we're not disregarding or we're not saying that this is going to be eliminated, but how important this is a career when we can develop and when we can um, see or become part of the labor market. So what do we do? We work with the academia. We work with the different technical organizations, this different institutions, which are training people with technical skills, and we work hand in hand as to the type of strategies that we need to manage for this group of people. We have worked with the automotive sector. The demand in the automotive sector is very strong in Mexico, and there is scarcity. There is lack of talent. So what we do is we normally move people, but we do not solve the problem. That's one of the reflections I want to share, so that you can understand why. What are the five roles of highest demanding operations and logistics, manufacturing and production, data, sales and marketing, and administration and office support. And I'm going to focus on one, which I'm sure that you have gone through this. We don't have a sales career. Those who are good at sales is because somebody said that they were good at that, because they have a good speech, because they like to talk to people, and empirically they have developed that skill. But there's no formal education. Um, they may have studied business administration, and how important is it focus this needs into and the logistics based on the pandemic. How has this grown? This is one of the most important factors because of the behavior, and how and because the consumption is different. So if we can relate this part to the five skills that the employers are looking for. This is something that I mentioned, the accountability part, initiative, the resilience, tolerance, stress, and adaptability, taking initiative, being able to have an analytical thinking and social leadership. And I'm going to stop in the initiative part. People normally say there are some examples when we are um, fathers, or we when we get to have this type of situation, and we want to solve without asking uh, or to determine what will be the response. And this is a very commonly used methodology. We help people try to find the response, and you need to reflect when we have somebody and the company come with a problem. We normally want to help them solve, but we need to make sure that the people can find those type of solutions. And they also asked how can we increase our digital skills uh, through an alliance with an organization that will. We had an alliance with an organization that is helping us. define which are the best skills, and we also have a study, but I'm not having any time to share. But there are some skills developed by gamers, and these will be basis to what we currently have today. And I think that through this understanding. Um, how is it that they're building and how are they adapting these skills? This is how we will adapt to the works to the works of model. Uh, the way to work has changed, and our generations are changing, and we need to work on the digital part and more behavioral skills.
Excelente. Y hay una pregunta, hay muchas preguntas.
Well, there are many questions in the chat.
Me parece buena para concluir.
There's one to conclude this session. What will be the message that the panelists will give to the attendees who are thinking of changing or finding a job and do not want to do it because they need training? I think that this question, to a certain extent, involves all of the topics that you have been mentioning. Very briefly, share your response to that challenge. It's such a human challenge, but so truth, which also reflects the processes. Perhaps, and I want to hear from Marta to respond to this question. Okay, that's a very interesting question. That happens a lot for female leaders, and when we have the opportunity for a new role, it is not taken because we need to be certain that we will be able to face that challenge. And at times, we leave aside some opportunities so we're not gonna be certain unless we face the day-to-day activities. So you have to just apply for a vacancy. If you don't get it, they will give you some feedback in terms of what is it that you need. And if you can get it, then you need to work along the way on these skills. No company is expecting for you to have the response to pretty much everything. I think that the most important thing for an employer is the initiative, seeing that initiative in people and seeing their desire to work, to learn. What do you think about this, Christy? The same question. What would you suggest a person that is planning to change a job?
Yeah, I think that, one thing to keep in mind is we're talking about this need for these new skill sets and new education and things like that. But there's a lot of skills that are transferable. And I think there's some onus on individuals to stop and think about how the skills that you do have translate. So maybe some of the hard technical skills, maybe a clear, translation over. Maybe some aren't as clear, but certainly some of the soft skills, the behaviors, the leadership capabilities are applicable to many different businesses, sectors. And I think recognizing those skills in yourself and promoting them as you're looking for other jobs and how you can make that transition. And then also, we've just talked a ton about a lot of digital platforms, right? Online courses. Take a few in the area where you're most interested in to get you in the door, and then that will help you maybe even translate those skills that you do have even further by really taking the initiative to spend some time preparing and educating yourself ahead of time. So I would encourage, like Marta just said, that I think it is dominant in women, but it occurs across many facets of diversity in humans, and I think taking pride in your skills and capabilities and really promoting them forward is really, a clear path. And I think as private sector, as people looking to hire individuals, we are looking for broad ranges of skills, and we're looking for people who do have transitions in their careers or new careers started out or experienced hires across the board.
Muchas gracias y muy importante escuchar eso.
Yes, that was interesting. That's very interesting to hear from an employer. That's a very important message. Joanna, the same question to you. What do you suggest? I'm because I wanted to say the same thing. First of all, do not stop educating, and I also curiosity. You have to be curious. I mean, it is important to be curious and to be educated on a permanent basis and with the skills. And if there are some skills, try to find those skills, whether through a regulated or through any type of education or coaching or any specialized manner. And Martha, I especially to women, don't be afraid. I mean, try things, and I fully agree with you. I normally work with employers, and they say when they see an application of a woman, they take it because they normally comply with 99.9% of what we do. So because we know we're good for that. I mean, so with this, you if you still 20, if you still have that 20%, you need to learn. And I'm sure that if you get a feedback, that's going to be very good for the future. And I know that the many men, you have to be brave. Don't be afraid of failure. Be curious and educate yourself every day. Okay, now we need to hear from the two guys. Carlos, I be brave. I mean, be audacious to assume those challenges. The pandemic has shown how fragile life is, and I would say if in the current job you don't feel accepted or and if you're not happy because life is too short for you to do something that you don't like or where you're not realized as a professional, find a job where you're appreciated in respect, with respect, where teamwork is accepted, adaptability to change, where in a company that is ethical, where they will allow your development of critical thinking to be able to solve problems, to to stimulate the expression, where people can build solutions to the different problems, where people can have the freedom to speech, where you can provide service. The humor. I mean, those are things those are places that make you happy. Those are places that that should that you where you should be willing to work. I do insist, Ariel, that something that is really important and which has been mentioned by all the panelists. This is this is this should be should be the decade of human beings with the different skills, but also with the different skill sets that will allow them to become a reference for their families, for the communities they operate. And if people are audacious, sufficiently audacious, I'm sure that these persons will be happy and when illiterates in the 21st century are not those who cannot unlearn. Thank you.
Muchas gracias por la pregunta.
Thank you for the question. Well, I think
Constantemente los empleos se destruyen y otros se crean.
some jobs are destroyed and others are created. So people need to be aware
El cambio tecnológico
of the technology changes, the changes in the different trades, the changes that the different industries are going through. The challenge that we have and the different jobs is to inform on a permanent basis what are the traits that are being demanded, because that way we can provide more information to the candidate of the different training processes to be able to acquire new skills. The jobs and that's what we do in our entity. We need to report this type of new trade so that the change of the information that citizens have or those who are using this type of information is certain, because these new skill sets are should be demanded by the industry. Therefore, this is part of the change. This is a constant in the different processes. Others are created, but the challenge is to take these challenges by providing true and accurate information to determine what's the evolution of the new labor world. Nicole, you have the opportunity to mention as well to respond. Well, I think what I perhaps I want to echo what Christy mentioned. And the pandemic, we have learned a lot about the different ways of working, learning. And I think that this is something that we need to preserve as a lesson learned from this experience that we had during the pandemic. But I think it is really important, and many of the participants have indicated that there are young people in different situations of education, those who are looking for a job, and that we need to provide the flexibility to find different ways to train themselves. And I think that I fully agree 100% that this is not only online, but this is also part of the solution that is providing a lot of options. So I think that the face-to-face activities is really important, but we need to provide more solutions to provide this type of training. So from our standpoint, this is what we normally try to provide to have the different flexibility to work with different companies to include the content that we provide as part of a hybrid solution for different type of populations. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. This is the end of this meeting, but I must say that I am more optimistic in terms of it doesn't happen that often. I mean, when we have this type of meetings around what the situation is, I think that that this is a huge opportunity and hope. And I do think that this is interesting because this is information that we heard from you, and I think that there's a sensation or a feeling that with all the different the sad things that we have experienced with the pandemic, this pandemic has also forced us to move faster, to change, to innovate, and that learning as to the extent we maintain this learning can actually help us in the transformation process. In all the I know at least in the different countries that were involved in this meeting, there is a change taking place in the ecosystem of education for work, where there seems to be more emphasis in the acquisition of knowledge. There is more diversification on the different programs, and then the way how these programs are delivered. or with the idea of the hybrid models. And and I am also very clear about the message that this is not a challenge that will be solved from just one party. So this is why the ecosystem is so important. You all have been very clear that in the different ways what we're trying to do is to establish alliances involving state agencies, private companies, institutions, and education institutions. And this is also taking place organically. How? So by the time we leave the pandemic, by the time we try to look for commitments, how is it that we can achieve this process? So with this, I want to express my gratitude to all of you, my panelists, for your awesome input, for all the attendees. I think we have nearly 200 people involved in this session, and it's been recorded. We will place it on. It will be available online. There will be a summary of this meeting, and I do hope that we can keep on having your participation in a very